Hello and welcome to the Penno Channel. As it's the international break, we're joined with a special episode today. But before we start, if you could like, subscribe if you're new, and also drop your comments in the chat as we're live, or if you've seen the video after, drop a comment and we'll get to it and provide a response as well. I'm joined as ever with my bro. How you doing, bro? You all good? And also, we've got a special guest, the Aston Villa correspondent for The Athletic, Jacob Tanswell. Thank you for joining us, Jacob. How are you enjoying your international break so far then?
Well, apologies we're late, but that's my fault. The reason why is I'm currently I'm at Warwick Services. I've had a few meetings today. So regarding the international break, I always love it because it's a really good time to meet people that are always busy during the season, and to get some of the pieces I have longer term in mind, to make real good progress on those. So international breaks been quite busy actually.
Oh, has it been busier than usual then? Is that the case?
I think it's because it's, I don't know, first international break for a while, so it means you can talk to a few contacts that have been busy, or you haven't seen since the transfer window. So it's always a good opportunity. Like, obviously with no games, and because Villa are playing so much, you're always just having to report on the next game and the next press conference, where having this little bit of time gives you a chance to, I don't know, maybe take stock a little bit and prepare for the next few weeks, maybe to the end of the season as well.
Oh, good stuff. We've got a few things we'd like to discuss in this one, so we appreciate you being here. Just starting off. So Unai taking the team over to Dubai. Before that took place, was there anything said of the reasoning for why that was? Was it just a fresh start, warm weather training, something different, or was there actually a reason tactically, potentially, working with the players who haven't gone away for international break?
Yeah, we broke the story, I think it was the day after the Crystal Palace game, so morale was pretty low at the time.
Yeah, could say that,
yeah.
And the way it was described to me was Villa were looking to go to Dubai, and we're probably going to go to Dubai during this 2-week period, because that was at the end of 5 games in 13 days. It was ridiculous, the amount of games, and fatigue, injuries had caught up. And I think they obviously saw this as a good chance to bring some of the players that haven't played for a while, such as Onana, Ross Barkley, back up to speed, real condensed, intense sessions. But for the others as well, some of the younger lads coming in, being introduced, and basically just reset as well. Warm weather, it's better for the mood, having a bit of sun in your face sometimes, and it just a bit more of a fresh start. Arsenal did it last year to brilliant effect. Not so much this year with Kai Havertz game.
Kai Havertz,
but yeah, Emery was really pushing this, and whatever Unai wants, Villa tend to give him.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of Arsenal fans were just like, we shouldn't go. Sorry, a lot of Villa fans were referencing the Arsenal Dubai, and we're just like, we shouldn't go because what happens if one of our best players gets injured? Like, you can't use that logic to not go on aboard. Like, anything can happen. So
yeah, that's the thing, right? It's also with Arsenal, they had probably all their strong first choice players over there, where a lot of Villa's players obviously in international duty. But it's good for example, next 5 days training is going to be hugely beneficial to Onana, who has barely played in recent months.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, is Ross Barkley out there as well?
Yeah, I saw Barkley upload on his story today.
Yeah.
So the missing man finally showing himself.
Know, yeah.
Where have you been?
And I think with these players coming back now, hopefully the players that have gone to represent their countries, they stay fit. Villa have almost got two teams as such now, in terms of with the players coming back. We've got 2 players for each position, and fighting on 3 fronts. That's huge. That's massive. So yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting indeed, and as we'll go on to, there's so much to look forward to in this last quarter, I'd say, of the season, roundabout. But yeah, just your thoughts so far on the season so far, then. Because obviously, since you've come here, it's been a whirlwind, and it's really shot up from where it was previously under Steven Gerrard and obviously Dean Smith as well. But what's your thoughts been of Villa season so far?
I think Villa have been pretty, I wouldn't say average, but subpar most of the season. But they've been it's been interspersed by some just brilliant moments and brilliant matches in isolation. So, of course, everyone will mention the Bayern Munich game. Second half against Arsenal was great. But at the same time, I think a lot of Villa's form in the Premier League, it's been a lot like a lot of other clubs, pretty patchy. I think Villa have been pretty poor in a lot of games defensively, again, still issues.
Yeah.
Again, when Villa play at night time, under the lights, maybe especially in Champions League at home, you just have these amazing occasions. So I would say Villa have not been at their best in the league. I think Villa players and coaches will agree with that, but there's been so many special moments, right? And that's one of the joys of reporting on Aston Villa, that they could go to Ipswich and draw 2-2 against a pretty terrible team, or grind out a 1-0 against Southampton, and then all of a sudden they beat Bayern Munich. It's pretty incredible, really.
Yeah, it is, and I tend to agree with you. It's not, in terms of what happened last season and getting Champions League and the way we were playing at times, especially before, up until December. The football, it's probably the best football I've seen Villa play ever. The level that they were, and it's just, I think this season it's been hard to maintain that. Obviously, going on all fronts as well, including the FA Cup as well this season. I know we had the Conference League last season, but yeah, Champions League, it's a different level of opposition. Even though I must say, our Conference League in comparison to Chelsea's this season is night and day in terms of the level of opposition we had to face last year. But yeah, it's been up and down. It has been up and down for sure, and I think, and we just hope that this last quarter now we're honing. Loads of players are coming back now from injuries, and we can just push forward and hopefully, maybe get Champions League again or some silverware at the end of it.
Yeah, touching on what you've said, like in the league, it's been frustrating because it doesn't feel like we're giving up loads of quality chances, but it's felt like the opposition will score off like their first good chance, and it keeps happening. And I've been trying to tell people, like, the defense, it's been quite bad, but like in terms of like the XG we've been giving up and stuff, it hasn't been the worst. And I think that's kind of been reflected in our Champions League games, where we kept a clean sheet against Club Brugge, Bologna, Bayern Munich. So we had more success there, young boys as well. But yeah, it's just been that frustration, hasn't it? Like conceding off the opposition first chance, and then injuries as well, not having a fully fit squad, having to rotate the midfield a lot as well. So yeah, but hopefully we get our guys back and we have a strong end to the season, man, because I still think Champions League is up for grabs in the league from the league position. If we can put on a bit of a run. Yeah.
I think that'd be incredible, wouldn't it, to be in the Champions League again. And you think Villa have always been in touch and distance, and maybe that's one of the frustrating parts, that if Villa clicked a month ago or 2 months ago, they're now be in a really good position in the league, but they're still got a chance. And you're right to touch on the XG and the XG against, because Villa, XG against is okay, like you say, Adam. It's fine, but Villa obviously have got this propensity to keep conceding with their the first shot on target they concede, and they concede also in the last 15 minutes of games. So they're pretty bad at the start of games, pretty bad at the end of the games. Where last year, a lot of Villa's success was they were so efficient in front of goal. They were one of, I think there was a statistic around from September to September 23-24, Villa were most efficient in terms of whenever they had a shot on target. More often than not, they would go in. Whereas this year they underperformed there actually considerably, and at the same time, the other team are being so ruthless in attack. So those fine margins that every manager talks about, Villa haven't really been getting them.
Yeah, it did feel like last season.
Sorry, God, Bob, you go. No, I was going to say.
I was just saying.
I'll go. So if you look at Bournemouth this season, they've been one of my favourite teams to watch. Yeah. But if you actually go back to the game at Villa Park, they had 0.3 XG. I think that was one of the best defensive performances against that Bournemouth attack from any Premier League side this season. And to concede, like you said, in the last 15 minutes to a set piece, it was totally avoidable. It's been frustrating in that sense as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
As going on for moving forward for the rest of the season, one thing I'm interested in is being around, obviously, Bodymore Heath and Unai. Has he led? He always states the Premier League's the priority. It always has been, always will be.
Yeah.
But has he alluded to potentially the FA Cup maybe having a higher rise within that, or the Champions League, or is it still just Premier League first come?
I think in his order it goes Premier League first. Premier League is the basis for everything else. If they do well in Premier League, Champions League will follow, money will follow, which means they can improve the squad, etc. See, Champions League, Unai said it's his dream to win the Champions League, so I think that's a close second. The FA Cup's interesting because I'm most excited about that personally, because I think it's a wonderful opportunity to win silverware, especially after Newcastle did it on Sunday. But when you ask Unai about it, he always mentions, of course, winning a trophy, but then he says it's a good way of getting into Europe as well. So it's almost like you can do the other thing rather than the actual silverware. But yeah, I think he puts it in that order. The Premier League is the meat and potatoes of Aston Villa.
Because I don't know about you, but I'm more nervous for Preston away than Paris Saint-Germain away. The fact that you've got such a good chance for Wembley.
Yeah, and that's banana skin. I've been to Preston before, and I really enjoyed it at the time. I think it's quite a nice stadium, quite good fans. But Preston are going to be a tough team. They're going to be up for it. And Villa don't tend to play that well when they're away from home. The crowd's on top of them. And I think Preston are going to make it a real 50-50 bit of a battle. So it might be a bit attritional, and they might have one goal in it. So, like you say, I think you're right to be nervous.
Yeah. Going into that and the thought process, because we've got so many games in such a short space of time, do you think with players coming back will potentially see some form of rotation? Obviously, for a number of games now, it's been McGinn, Tielemans in the centre midfield. Potentially Pau Torres now coming back in to get a first start as well. Anana's availability as well. Maybe getting Boubacar Kamara more involved again now he's come back from injury. Do you see potentially two teams as such, one for Preston and then one for PSG coming up the week after? And with that in mind, how do you see us setting up against PSG? Because watching them against Liverpool, they look like, apart from Barcelona maybe, attacking wise, they look like the most potent attack in the competition.
That midfield's been keeping me awake, bro. I can't lie. That midfield.
What, the one player that used to play for Wolves a few years ago?
Yeah, suddenly like one of the best midfielders in the world now. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, just to answer the first question, I don't think there'll be huge changes for any game now. I think at the business end of the season, where if players come in, they've got to be ready to go. So if Onana plays, if Barkley plays, whenever he is fully fit, they've got to be ready to go. But I don't think there'll be wholesale changes. I think, you have that strong 15 players, 16 players really that Emery really trusts. And I just think that's where you'll rotate. So, for example, Agusia and Cash will rotate, or Disasi will play right back and Konsa will play, Mings, Torres. I think you can rotate the back line. Villa have been doing that for about 2 months now. They keep making 3 changes every single game to the back four. So I think they'll do that. But then when you've got the spine in terms of, Tielemans, McGinn, Watkins, Rodgers, I think those guys will just keep playing until they can't anymore. And sometimes you feel sorry for Tielemans because he's been absolutely fantastic, but then he looks like he's running in treacle sometimes. But he's played 2,400, 500 minutes so far this season, every game. But
Mr. Consistent, I think, for me in terms of like player of the season.
I agree. And then how he set up in Paris. I would like it to be similar to the Ajax game. Do you remember that the first leg where nothing happened?
0-0.
Yeah. I think Villa can be quite tight. I think they can still put a bit of pressure on. But do you remember when Villa used to defend like in a back 6 when the other team had a ball? So like Ramsey would drop into fullback, and it'd be like a 6-3-1. And I think that'd be a great way of nullifying. I know Adam talks about the midfield, but the wingers, they're scary. So if you can just
100%, yeah.
If you can have a bit more protection for the fullbacks, then and stop them attacking from out wide, then maybe you can kind of congest the middle as well. So I hope it's going to be a game where they go there 0-0, maybe nick a goal or 1-0 loss, and then I think if they can stay within 1 or even 2 goals, they've got a great chance at Villa Park.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see how he's going to combat that midfield issue. Like, does he beef up our midfield as well? Does he play does Onana come into play just to add like a physical presence? And what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that could be a possibility?
Well, you saw, remember that 4 days, where Villa beat Man City and Arsenal at December 2023 period. that was when Villa introduced that just 4 centre midfielders, Douglas Luiz, Kamara, McGinn, Tielemans, and that was like 4 out-and-out midfielders who played in that box, and they just rattle around, rattled the other team, turn the ball over. So it's a really good point. I could feasibly see that happening, just try and stand on, Paris's midfield, which is so good.
And what I love about our team now is the outball. Marcus Rashford, like if we're ever in trouble, we've always got the outball in Marcus Rashford now, just to make those diagonal ones in behind. Like we saw it against Club Brugge, like Martinez's pass is so good, and then Rashford in behind doesn't even have to touch. He just changes the game. Red card. And I just feel like once we've got that option now, he changes the dynamics of our team. I don't really think we've had that player before.
You've got the pace of Rashford, and I'm still hoping he can click fully. I know he's showing flashes, but I still think there's a lot more, and there's a lot more he needs to do as well. But then you've got the players that can provide the pass. So obviously Martinez can do it, but you've got Tielemans and you've got Asensio as well, who he's adding goals. He's helping that XG problem, Adam. I think Villa are in a real good position now. They just need to make sure that they don't waste his opportunity, especially in the cup competitions.
I just wanted to ask, sorry, bro, just before cutting you off, this last one question on the PSG topic. If you were to choose now who you think will start, Pau Torres or Tyrone Mings against PSG away?
I will just caveat this by saying I think it depends on who plays the game before and who's in the better form. I'd probably say Mings now, because we don't know how Pau is coming back from injury. I'd say Mings. I think if you want a proper defensive performance, I think having Mings in there just to boot the ball away and head anything would be pretty ideal.
Yeah, I do. As you were saying before, I remember in our second game against Brighton, where that was the first time we really saw that adopted 6 at the back, and I would love it if we saw something similar to that away against PSG, just to bring it back out of nowhere and just really box them in, because, as I said, they are an absolute threat. And when you see them play against one of the best back fours and rip them apart over 2 legs, it does get you worried. It does get you worried how you come up against a side like that. So, yeah.
Dembele as well. He scored again at the weekend. Like, I'm just monitoring all PSG games now, and I'm just like, he scored again. Like, I think they'll beat Marseille.
I hope Luca Dean comes back with some intel from France. He's training with all of them at the moment, so he might.
Do you reckon there'll be some tackles flying in from Dean in training just to let him know? Just to give him a little trailer of what's coming.
Just stamp on his back of his Achilles.
Yeah, why not?
Just a casual one. So moving on from that, Jacob, just a few things in terms of the Champions League as a whole. Obviously, we've seen the amount of revenue it generates as being a part of it, winning games within the competition and going as far as we have done. There's potential summer implications in regards to PSR. Now, I do remember last year you broke the news very early, as in to say Villa might have to sell this summer. Obviously, that turned out to be Douglas Luiz. That was the big marquee sale. In terms of our position at this moment in time, and obviously with the revenue coming in for Champions League, we don't know where we could be. We might have Champions League, might have Europa Conference, or no Europe at all. Yeah. Worst case, probably best case, and worst case. Is there anything that along those lines that has been?
I think we get a clearer picture when Villa's financial accounts eventually come out, but you're expecting heavy losses again. So if you had the 119.6 million Villa lost previous season to 80 million they're going to lose this season, there's 200 million lost, and that's well out of the PSR constraints over a 3-year period, which is 135 million. So even with Champions League, I think they'll have to sell. But at the same time, even if they didn't, I think Villa would sell anyway, because they always want to freshen up the team. They always want to keep evolving. And Monchin Vilagani just like this challenge, and the recruitment team like this challenge of replacing players. And they've done it a similar way to looking forward to it. So, look, for example, we take Ian Matson. He's been brought in to eventually replace Luca Dean, who could well leave this summer. Kamara, Onana, that could be an example as well. So I think Villa will sell for big money. I'm not sure who that could be. Kamara's contract's coming into the last 2 years. Jacob Ramsey would represent pure bookable profit. So one of these, some of these guys, Ollie Watkins, again, obviously interest from Arsenal in January. There'll have to be discussion to be made there. So if I had to put my money on the table, I'd say there will be a sale, but one that Villa will be confident they can contend with. But yeah, it's getting pretty tricky with the rising wages and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems as if, and I remember quotes from Munch and Vidagrani where they come into the summer and they don't actually know what they are going to do at the end of the day, because
that's the thing. I think
things change so quickly.
They're usually scheduled to sit down in early May to discuss the summer plans, so we probably have a clearer picture around then.
Okay. Jake, well, I did want to ask you about, I remember listening to you on the Affiliate podcast, and you were talking about how Vidagrani and Munchie just facilitate whatever Emery wants, and how it does book the trend in how like recruitment setups are nowadays in the modern game. I just wanted, like, I know you might not be able to say everything, but just like what your opinions are on it. Is it like sustainable? Is it new? Like, is it working in that sense, or do you think it is quite a risk? Because me personally, I don't like, if I'm thinking long term, like I think, can this actually like work? Do you always get it right? Is the errors? What happens if Unai like just preparing, like say he just wants to leave one day? Like, how do you navigate that as well? So
yeah, it's funny you should say that, because one of my meetings today was about this piece we're going to do on a big profile of Munchie and Vidagrani, and what agents and coaches and what they think of them, and also what they do basically. And I was having this discussion today that it is pretty novel for it to be so manager led. This current climate, everyone's being appointed a head coach nowadays who just focus on the training, where Emery is in charge of everything. And I think when Emery and Munchie were in the previous club, the power was pretty even, 50-50. I think now it's more Emery wants a player, Munchie will then do or facilitate it, like you say, Adam. So that's how it works. They're very close to unit, and I think that's a good thing. For a guy like Emery, who has already said that he believes in the project, he wants to be here for a long time. So you don't have to worry too much about him just walking off in the short-term future. But a lot of sporting directors, a lot of managers aren't very close. They barely speak. Some of them have a very cold relationship, where whenever you see Munchie, Vidagrani's usually there, and whenever you get seeing a team coach, Emery's there with them. They share an office together at Bodymore. They go for breakfast together. They're very good friends and very tight. So whenever Munchie has discussions with agents or players, he's basically Unai's second mind. So he already knows what Emery wants, and he goes out and performs it. And there's sometimes where Emery will want a player, and the data team, which do a very good job, they'll come back and say, he's maybe not the player you used to think he was. He's maybe on the slide a little bit, and then maybe it's up to Munchie or one of the other guys to kind of break it to Unai that it's probably not a good idea to
that's fascinating.
And in fairness, Unai, most of the time will listen to that. He's not one of those hard-headed rulers who will just basically say, no, I'm getting this player. But he needs to be convinced by evidence, and I think Villa have done that very well.
Yeah, I always made the analogy with my brother. It was like, when you're young and you can't have the trainers that you want for some reason, and then when you grow up, you have money, you just buy them just because you can. And that's what it felt like with a couple of, like, I don't know, with the João Felix one, like maybe you wanted to save him and like revive his career, and like other players as well. Like maybe they're not as good as they were when you first started out, but now you think, can I buy them and just potentially save them, or just even if they're out of fashion in a sense?
Yeah, I think we'll probably get another link to João Felix, and Villa will
Of course.
Time not to sign them, but at some point, if you try it often enough, but it's great that Emery is so invested in this, because Villa have got so much assurance that he'll be there for a long time. When he does leave, then my gosh, that's going to be a huge hole. Not only not even to replace him, but the 25-30 staff that he's got. It's going to be remarkable.
Yeah, I think I heard. Sorry, bro. Just to say, like at the end of the Luton game when we won 3-2. Apparently Emery was just like, Barkley, like I want him for this summer, like make it happen. And then it's brilliant how he knows the player that he wants, and he sees him, and then he's just like, I know I can improve the player in myself.
Same with Rodgers, same with him. But then on the opposite side of the fence, you've also got the players that are data-led science that they bring to Emery, and he has to be convinced. So Duran was one of them. Andres Garcia was another. And these guys that are from the data from the scouting team that Emery will then work with, and those two are probably what gives the data team and recruitment team so much joy, that they can buy these players for less than 20 million combined, and they're probably they've sold Duran for a big money, and they could get already quadruple what they paid for Garcia. So it's great.
Oh, that's interesting that Garcia was a data. I just assumed that he was someone Emery had watched and just knew of. But then that's interesting.
Emery's seen him. Like they share. His agent is close to Pau Torres' agent as well, so they're very much. Gets on very well with them. But at the same time, he wasn't even playing in La Liga, so it required a lot of data to analyze him, and then eventually convince Unai that he could come straight into the team.
That's interesting. So in line with recruitment, and we're going to just talk about a few players in line with that. Firstly, the whole Duran and Watkins conversation. I know it was a big one at the time in terms of Duran leaving in January. Having seen a lot of your stuff, Jake, and what you do, I know you're a big fan of John Duran. Myself and my brother were as well. How has there been any thought of how close that decision was in terms of Watkins, Duran, or if it was both within that instance, and the possibility of that as well?
I don't think it was ever going to be both, but yeah, it's reasonable to say that it could have been Watkins going in January rather than Duran. As I say, Villa do need to raise funds and PSR purposes, and it just felt like at a time it was a good time to sell one of them. Duran, obviously, if the Duran deal to Saudi wasn't as advanced, then maybe Villa would have sanctioned the Watkins deal to Arsenal. So it wasn't a case of we're going to keep Watkins, see you later, Duran. It could have easily been the other way around. But I think they ultimately went for the safer option in terms of letting Duran, however much I enjoyed him in the early days and got kind of tired of it.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, go on.
Sorry, I always found one comment you said interesting, where you said even if Duran was given the starting role and Watkins was sold, there's no guarantee that he still want to stay. Because I'll be honest, in my perspective, from a purely like footballing perspective, in my head, I was saying it in August, I was like, the most natural thing to do here for sustainable club is to sell Watkins in January or summer for a decent fee, and then you have the ready-made replacement there. He's learning. Yeah. That's how I always thought. And I just thought, with the talent Duran has, like, imagine if he's our starter come next season. But then, if you're saying maybe he'd still have been tempted to leave. But yeah, me personally, like, I just always felt like there was that what if. And Watkins, if you look at him this season as well, I don't know how you feel about it, but obviously his XG is still good, but there's an underperformance there compared to last season where he was almost matching it, non-penalty. I think he was like 19 XG, 19 goals. This season it's like 14 and he's got 11 goals, so there is a bit of an underperformance. Although he does cheat his assists. I was saying to my brother, he always manages to get lots of assists compared to what he creates, so it adds up. But yeah, I think with Duran, we have that reference point as fans where Watkins misses, it's almost like an added, but we've just seen another striker show us that we are allowed to have a striker that can score long ranges and score difficult goals. So I don't think that helps Watkins a bit as well. And I do feel sorry for him sometimes, because I don't know if it's the injury that he had in pre-season still impacting him. But I think the more interesting conversation on Watkins and analysing him is other stuff outside of the goal scoring. Like, his hold-up play doesn't look as effective to me as it did last season, and his de-acceleration when he's running with the ball and he's trying to take on a man and he has to slow himself down. It seems like he struggles with that a bit more from what I've watched. So I hope the injury isn't impacting him as much. I mean, he's missed the England call up here as well with another injury against Club Brugge.
Yeah.
And just one thing, Jacob, on that as well. Has the back injury from the Euros, has that been consistent throughout the time of this season at all? Or is it more a case of just niggles in other areas as well?
I think certainly at the start of the season, it was a niggle, and it carried on for a good few months. I think Watkins is he's kind of just knackered, really, in terms of how he's played a lot recently. He's barely had any time off during the summer. he's played basically two years of just constant football, and I think this rest now, I think it's the best in disguise. He's not gone to England. He can just rest for 2 weeks, do nothing, shut down completely, and I think that will help him a lot. And I think having a summer off as well would help him hugely. So, no, I don't want to pass judgment yet. He's only 29. I still think he looks after himself. His durability is remarkable, really, in terms of the physical levels he gets to, and he's mostly always available. And when he does get an injury, he recovers quite quickly as well. So I think if he can have a real good summer, proper pre-season, always best years, even when he was at Western Supermare on loan, whenever he had a proper pre-season, he always hit the ground running at the start of next. So yeah, I think he'll be much better for it. But at the same time, who knows? He might even leave in the summer. I think all options are on the table.
Yeah, I think with Watkins, like, you'd be more nervous if he wasn't getting any chances at all. Like, I like that his underline's still there. And I'm just waiting for, like, the explosion to happen. Like, surely a hat-trick, like the Brighton hat-trick last season, where it's like about 3 deflections, but they all go in. Like, I'm hoping that game comes for him soon, where it's just like a random hat-trick.
I agree.
And he's got that Gabby record to hopefully get this season.
Please.
Yes. He's not far away. I've been waiting for that. I've been having that stat on my... Should we get sent like an Opta pack before every game? No, it's always in there. It's always that Gabby O'Connor horse record scorer, blah blah blah.
It's coming. It's coming this season. It's coming. Another player. I know we've had the big names such as Rashford and Asensio coming in as well, and then Garcia. But a few players one player who we let go in summer out on loan, who's having a big impact in La Liga, and that's Enzo Barrenechea. At Valencia, he's really come on the second half of this season now, looking to be a really good player and integral in them staying in the division going forward.
Yeah.
Just a thing regarding him, to put this, is he a player that potentially Unai can see being part of the squad next season?
Yeah.
Is there a potential for him to stay another year at Valencia? Or because what I've seen in him in the games, his ball playing ability is top of what I've seen. I think we saw that in pre-season anyway. He's really good on the ball. But Enzo Barrenechea.
Yeah, I think Unai want to take a look at him in pre-season, nice and early. If he impresses, then I think he'll be part of the squad. It was very close whether he'd be in the part of the squad for this season, really. But I think ultimately, and I think they made a right decision. They thought, you know what, he probably won't play as much, and I think for his development, and the player wanted to obviously go on loan and play regular football, it would be better for him long term. Although, you know, at some points of the season, Villa probably wouldn't have minded having him. I think, especially in the last 2 months, from what I hear, he's really stepped up a gear under Carlos Corberán, the new head coach of Valencia. He's playing a lot more games. I think the system suits him. It's like a 4-2-3-1, but he's a deeper one, similar to Villa in a way. And you know, I think a lot of people say he's got that personality. He's got that Argentine, personality where he's a fighter, he's a scrapper on the pitch. And I think Villa sometimes maybe are guilty of being too nice on the pitch. So he'll be great as well. But same time, a lot of clubs will want him. Valencia want him again, and it would represent a really good sale as well. Should they, because they signed him for £8.5 million. So they can get 20 upwards of 20, then they're going to make a really good profit on the financial sheets.
Yeah, I think I'd be gutted if we did sell him, but I do see the financial aspect of it as well.
That's a problem.
Yeah, I think I think his sister goes to university in Valencia as well. Like, there's that dynamic there where his family are all out in Valencia, and he might be comfortable there. If they stay up, maybe he wants to make it permanent. I don't know, from his Instagram stories, he feels like he's really connected with Valencia, and he's become a fan favourite there. So I'm not getting my hopes up, I don't think, with him maybe being integrated, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong.
There's another one in transfers, bro, in terms of Maatsen and Digne. Did you want to say?
No, I think that's just the obvious pathway in terms of Maatsen. It's been looked at to be the long-term left back, but at the same time, Luka Dinkey's playing this, wonderfully. But he's got coming into the last 2 years, his contract, high earner, a player that Villa wanted to move up before because of his finances. There's been interest from Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago. That's still there now. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Luka Digne did leave. But again, if they don't have that faith in Maatsen, or if they can get another a consistent left back to replace Luca Dean, then maybe he stays and signs a new contract on reduced term. But from what I hear, he's a very good professional. He's a very nice guy. And I think he'd be happy to stay, more than happy to stay. But at the same time, Villa need to start thinking, okay, we've signed Maatsen for a lot of money. He's actually played a lot more now, isn't he? The last couple of weeks, he's played more games. Can he be the starting left back? And then also, you've still got the Alex Moreno problem to come back. Lots to contend with.
Jake, I did want to ask you just on the left back situation as quickly, Jake. Like, do you not think I'm one that says like Dean's improved massively defensively from last season? Like he locked up with Bremer the other day. I thought he was really good there. But going forward, I just feel like sometimes there's a restriction. It's almost like an opportunity cost where I look at like a Kirkes or a Lewis Hall, and they consistently make those ones into the box. They cut back, and I guess that's what Maatsen was brought into. And Maatsen has shown that he can do that sometimes. But then it's the defensive side to Maatsen's game where I guess that's why he's not starting, because he can be a bit vulnerable there. It's almost like you'd want to combine both players to have ideal two-way left back that we could utilise. But yeah, I just wanted your thoughts on that. Do you think Villa could look at a left back like in summer that could provide that, or do you think they'll stick it out with like Maatsen and try and improve him defensively?
I think Maatsen will be the first choice because they spent a lot of money for him. So they'll keep him in there, and then they could try and if Luca Dean did go, I don't think that's a given by any stretch. But if they did, they could try and have a left back that can, or a player that's in the squad already that can deputise there, or a younger left back, lower cost, and maybe like a complete same as on the other side as Andres Garcia for a low cost good player. I think what I'd say, you bring the Kirkes example up, as I completely agree with you, but Iriola just wants his wingers and fullbacks just to bomb on, just run forward as quick as you can. Where I think Luca Dean gives you a bit more control. He's better. He keeps the ball very well. You rarely see him lose the ball. And also the completely different type of players like Maatsen and Kirkes will drive, like they're basically wingers. Luca Dean would just rather be a traditional, get the ball at his feet and cross it rather than dribble to the byline.
Yeah, it's more of a standing cross. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think I saw today he had the most crosses this season. Also, he's the highest rated crossing accuracy this season. I think Luca Dean in the league, Premier League. Yeah,
it is interesting the winger point you did mention, because it did feel that was the original blueprint of Emery's football with Moreno bombing forward. Remember, like Newcastle 3-0 at home, like that was some of my favourite Villa games. Like I've witnessed under Emery, and that felt like the left back is the left wing in the system. Ramsey will tuck in and play that almost like 10-volt kind of role. So if that's changed now with Dean, is that just because of his profile, or is that Emery just fully navigating away from him having the left back always bomb forward? It's interesting to see. And
I think he still does get forward, doesn't he? He still overlaps, and I think he's just shown that he's improving all the time under Unai. But at the same time, ordinarily he probably would prefer a profile for left back similar to a Moreno or Maatsen, but Luca Dean's a fighter, isn't he? Every time you think you're going to write him off, he just keeps rising to the test. So while he's in this form, while he's a professional, looks after himself incredibly well in the France squad, you might as well make the most of him.
Yeah, I did for Maatsen. I did think he had his best game against Bruges in a Villa shirt. I know it was against 10 men, so there was maybe a bit more space within that. But the way, because Rashford stayed so wide, he was able to come inside and play on the ball, which I think is his strength on the ball in those areas, and also getting a goal from doing that. I thought it was his best performance and best game, so hopefully he gets confidence from that.
Yeah,
for sure. I want to move on. I know you're a Southampton fan as well. One player of interest who I think many clubs will have some interest in the summer is Tyler Diblin. I just want to know your thoughts on how much do you rate him as a player, and do you think he has the capabilities to play, at that end of the league? I know Southampton this season, it's not been great for them, but what I have watched of Tyler Diblin, he always seems to be the standout player on the pitch.
Yeah, he's a wonderful player, and I think he's going to have an amazing career for him. Obviously, every club, or most top clubs in the Premier League, want him, but it's going to come for a big price. And there's a lot of unknowns with Tyler Diblin. I think he's been pretty poor in the last couple of months. He started the season very well, gone off the boil. He's already left Southampton once. He went to Chelsea, came back after 3 months, got homesick. So that's a cautionary tale. I think there's a lot of unknowns with him. I think he needs to make sure that he can be distracted at times. So like Kenny, young player coming through, he will need discipline. I still think he's very wet behind the ears. So he's not a player like a Lamine Yamal who's ready-made, ready to go. He's got brilliant talent, but I think there's a lot to learn. He's got a lot of maturing to do. So, for his development, I'm not just saying for a Slamster fan. I think he could do with one season in the Championship. So, he didn't play last year in the Championship when Slamster were there, to really toughen up, to learn the hard knocks, to make sure his attitude is right, and then you can bring him in. I think Villa will do fantastic to bring him in and then loan him again. If Saints want the 40 to 50 million, which has been reported, then that's a lot of a big chunk of Villa's budget on a player that is probably not ready yet.
Yeah. That's such an interesting take, because I get carried away with days the next Grealish. He plays like Jack. He's got the power where he stops playing. He's got gravity, attracts players. But then there's that other side of the mentality that you've spoken about. So if we signed him on loan, that would be. But as a Southampton supporter, like
selling them up.
There's other Southampton players that I want to keep over Tyler Dibley. I think Walker Peters that contract.
Fernandez as well. So
Fernandez and Walker Peters. I'd say.
Yeah.
And if you want a left back or right back, there's free agents staring in your face there. So
I know as well. From Forest. That's
yeah.
Jake, I wanted to ask: does Southampton's performances this season make you reminisce about the times where you had Mane and Van Dijk and a little bit more?
Pella.
Probably that Shane Long,
the
Sadio Mane fastest hat trick, or the Shane Long chip against Shea Given.
Those not that game. Let's not forget about that game.
The Sadio Mane fastest hat trick.
That was peak Southampton. I don't think you'll see that again. I'm kind of numb to it now. I don't even bother looking at or watching games. Even when Southampton came to Villa Park, I kind of just wanted Villa to win, because I was like, it's so much easier. I've got the idea for the piece already. If Villa lose to Southampton, then my gosh, it's going to be some inquest.
You might have that coming up, so just to be that into existence.
Jacob, you're one of us now, is what I'm hearing. Basically, you're a Villa fan now. Is what I'm.
This is the thing, right? A lot of people have the perception that journalists just want bad news, and maybe in some cases that's true. But it's when you see the numbers, but also the interest. Villa fans read your pieces and they look at you when you're winning, because they want to hear all about it, what's going well. When you lose, a bit like me for Slamside, you switch off from it. So it's just brilliant. Villa win. I'm doing well on the pitch, and also you do get an affiliation, like live in the area. You know a lot of Villa fans now, and you're just very happy for them. Like when Villa got through, especially after the first leg in Bruges, and you get the Eurostar home with all these Villa fans, and they've got Villa tattoos on the calves, they've got Villa screensavers, and you just talk to them all, and you think, you can't be happier for them.
That's brilliant.
That's sick. Do you want to ask?
We've got 3 questions to end with. We really appreciate you being here for so long, and appreciate your time.
Appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
So, question 1: Aston Villa, your Aston Villa dream signing this summer. If there was one player Aston Villa were to sign this summer, who would it be?
I'm just trying to think what's his position. I love Cunha from Wolves, but at the same time, where's he going to play? I'll probably go him. I think he's a great player. But I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, what position do you really need to strengthen? Maybe right back? What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say right back. I still think a centre back, especially with Axel Disasi and what happens there.
Yeah.
I mean, just through the season, I know injuries happened to players, but Pau Torres has missed a number of months, and we all know Tyrone Mings has come back from a big injury within that. So I think a centre back definitely from there. Yeah,
I liked a lot of the Club Bruges players. So if you could sign any,
or Donez, yeah. I think he's pocketed Watkins three games he's played against them. Or Donez pretty much kept him quiet. So yeah, he looked a player For sure.
I think my dream one is if Watkins was moved. This is not happening, by the way, but it's not happening. But Samu from Porto, I think he would just. I know we had links before when Duran was going to be sold last year, but I think Jacob's just like, yeah, that's not happening. You got no chance. I think he would be the dream signing.
Yeah. Maybe Villa try and go for Nico Williams again. Emery loved him for 2 seasons. Yeah. He'd be way out of bounds, but
yeah,
I would love I think another striker, another number 9. They're always exciting, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. The second one, your favourite home and away game since you've been covering Villa?
Favourite home game, the Man City game. Best. I think it's probably the best team performance I've seen live from any club. Away from home, I like Leipzig. I think Leipzig was a good performance overall. Really enjoyed that. I think that was good. Arsenal last year, the Watkins dink was probably my favourite game. That was remarkable. You just saw because obviously Arsenal going for the title, and where we're sat, like you're in like the hardcore. I'm not sure it's a hardcore, but you're really vociferous Arsenal support. And when that Watkins goes in, and you see the Villa fans in the corner celebrating, and how all the Arsenal fans just walk out, they don't say a word, they just all go. It's pretty special.
Can we get a repeat of that Champions League semi-final?
What a storyline that will be.
That's actually carried away. Yeah, true. Real Madrid will knock them out, actually.
We never know. And the final one, most surprising thing you realised about covering Aston Villa?
I know it's cliche, but just how big it is. It's a huge club. And it's just, the history of the club is great. I'm lucky. I've got 2 or 3 books that have been sent to me over the last couple of months. I've just been reading them. I think it's such a big club. So many links to the history, when it goes back to the Victorian era and how big Villa were then, and just the stadium as well. There's history. It's my favourite stadium, and I'm not just saying this because I report them. It's my favourite stadium in the country. I think it's wonderful. So just the size, and I was in Coventry, Nottingham, higher than that today, and you would see Villa fans walking everywhere. I was in London 2 days ago, and I saw a guy with a Villa tracksuit on. They just seem to be everywhere.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are not close to the club, or even if you're abroad and they have that, they don't have the understanding of the size of the club. And I think over the last year, obviously getting Champions League being a big factor in that as well, and how they've been able to socially through social media and stuff like that just show how big Aston Villa is as a club. You see like the Champions League in the tunnel for games when they were doing that, and you have people watching thinking, Aston Villa won the Champions League, that's a massive accomplishment. And I think if Champions League again consecutively or winning a trophy, I think that just is a level raiser again. And I'm sure Unai must be wanting to win something with Villa so much.
Surely the FA Cup time. It just feels aligned almost with how we've been playing, and the anniversary kit in the first game as well. Like I feel like there's a narrative there. In before 1-0 to Preston, but I hope we can win the FA Cup, man.
I just think it's the football club. The football side of things is so elite. There's 2 clubs in the club: the American business side and the football club, or the football side of things. And the football side is unquestionable, and it's so great. And I think it'd be such a shame if Villa don't win a trophy or have that special day like Newcastle did under Emery.
Yeah, I was hating. I'm not gonna lie, I was hating watching that game. I was just like, come on, Villa, like let's do one better now.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Jacob, thank you so much for your time. No, I really appreciate it. This has been a great episode, man. Really appreciate you joining us, and look forward to seeing what you've got to report on going forward. It's going to be a busy time for you for sure. Hopefully you're reporting on Villa winning a trophy. That would be massive.
That'd be great. Yeah.
No,
thank you very much.
No, thank you. And bro, as always, pleasure joining us. As always, if you could subscribe as well if you're new around here, and also drop your comments in the video afterwards. I would really appreciate it. How busy are you going to be for the remainder of the international break then?
I'm going back to London tonight for a meeting tomorrow, then Southampton, then Birmingham next 24, 36 hours. So hopefully I can get maybe Monday off, but that's about it. But I love the international break. It's a great time. Normally for a rest, but this just gearing up for a big end to the season.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you all for joining as well. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next show at the Villa.